Hi everybody, I'm Clark Smith. I'm the winemaker for WineSmith, and we're putting together a WineSmith Greatest Hits package for you. The three of the wines that have sold the most on Casemates, and before that Woot. I think they're pretty exciting. They're statements of what WineSmith is really all about, which is we like to make Eurocentric wines. I kind of like to suggest that maybe California is a better place to grow French style wines than France is, and so we have some examples from Burgundy, the Rhone, and Bordeaux. I believe in wine as a structure. I'm really interested in minerality, which gives we don't know what it is, but it's a tingle in the finish. I'm not talking about the smell of wet stone, but whatever that is, it causes the wines to have great longevity, and so I'm always looking for soils that impart that kind of stuff. So idea is to put together some technical skills that I learned in France together with what we produce for you, which is basically soulful expression, integrity for the wine to hold together well now, but also to age for a long time. Graceful longevity is what we call that, and our other slogan is affordable profundity. So let's see how we do here. The first wine I want to show you is a project that I did when I was teaching at Napa Valley College, and it's called Foshably. It's 100% Chardonnay, grown off of the student vineyard in Napa College. And this is my boss, Steve Krebs. He's a wonderful viticulturist, and he was the dean of the Viticulture and Wine Technology department at Napa Valley College. And so they had this vineyard called the Student Vineyard, probably the most carefully looked after vineyard in Napa Valley, because every student is assigned 10 vines for the term, and that's they take care of them, so they're looking at everything, and it's a pretty wonderful vineyard. Now it's just on a sandy loam, and so we wanted to get this minerality stuff, and so we talked to a Burgundian expert named Claude Bourguignon, and he said that we could get minerality on any soil if we would just knock it off with the pesticides and the herbicides and all that stuff. So here's what that vineyard looks like. We just let the weeds go crazy, and Steve here is holding up his earthworm city, and that's what Claude said we needed. Earthworms work cheap, and they do a good job. They just really aerate the soil and add organic material to it, I guess would be the way to put it. And if you do all that, then you get what are called mycorrhizal fungi, and they get a symbiotic deal going with the grapes, where they get sugar from the grape, they intercalate right into the rootlets, and then in exchange for that, micronutrients that they get from the soil. So it's basically the grape expanding its root zone about 100-fold. And the result is we really did get this minerality. Now the trick to Chablis is that you got to get the grapes right. You got to get them to the yellow stage. Most people that try to make that kind of wine will pick the fruit green, and it doesn't really work. We're looking for those ripe citrus oil aromas, and you really can't get them unless the grapes are ripe. Now, the problem in California is that our air is too dry. And so when we get that ripe grape, we're going to have to pull the alcohol down. And so I invented a process called reverse osmosis. I didn't invent reverse osmosis, but I invented a way to take distill some of the alcohol out of the RO permeate and then recombine it. And about 1,000 wineries in California use that technology now. So that's what we did here. The original alcohol was 14.8, and we pulled it down to a sweet spot in the 12s, so right about 12.9. Well, let's get into this stuff. Now, I want to tell you how to open this bottle, and as many of you know that have had this wine before, this is a 2005, and so that cork in there is 14 years old. And so you can't really get it out with a regular corkscrew. So what you got to do is remove the wax from the top. It's very soft. It's easy to do. And you're going to expect that cork is going to crumble on you. So you should be able to just pop that right off. And now you can get at it with an lasso. Now let me show you how to use an lasso. Some of you may not know how to do it, but it's really what you want for these older wines. So it has two prongs on it. One is longer than the other, and you never want to push on both of them at the same time. So you're going to go in there on one side and just slide it in maybe a quarter of an inch. And then you come in with the other one. And see, I'm going to rock it back and forth until it's all the way down. And don't push on both or you'll push the cork in. So then you get down here, and now you kind of got a handle on the bottle. And you unscrew it as if it were in there with threads. You come up a little bit, and then you can come right down onto the cork itself, and then slowly just unscrew it out of there. And there you go. So the cork is intact. You can see there hasn't been much penetration in those 14 years, so this cork's in really good shape, and so the wine should be too. Now, you know, most of y'all have never really tasted Napa Chardonnay. Napa Chardonnay is lovely, but for some reason most winemakers don't like their own Chardonnay, and so what they do is they have it go through malolactic so that it's really buttery, and that covers up the fruit, and then they put it in a new barrel so that it gets all toasty, and you end up with butter and toast. You know, who wants to drink breakfast, you know, with a piece of fish? So so this one doesn't have that. You can see that it's obtained a rich golden color over the years. It was almost water white when we first bottled it. This hasn't gone through malolactic, and it's never seen a barrel. So what I do is I ferment with some untoasted Allier chips that give me a little bit of tannin, because Chardonnay doesn't have very much tannin. And then I'm going to make something sort of resembling a Muscadet sur Lie style, where we stir the leaves for 8 or 9 months to coat the tannin, and you end up with this rich, plump structure. Okay, now, when you smell this, the first thing you get is lemon oil. I'm not talking about lemon fruit. I'm talking about something really more like furniture polish. And then it'll smell a little like champagne, because we have all this yeast autolysis in there. And I think you'll see that the nose is pretty profound. You know, most white wines that we make today are children of Blue Nun and the sterile bottling technology that Peter Seychelles worked out. This is before that. This is what white wine was like in the first half of the 20th century. Before you know, atomic energy came along and we were able to make those integrity testable, bubble pointable sterile filters. Before that, we made dry wine. Even the Germans made dry wine. And the idea was to, instead of just being pretty, like, you know, a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is very pretty, but it's not very profound. And a lot of people they'll say, well, I just don't like white wine. If you don't like white wine, you're going to like this one, because it has all the characteristics of a red wine in terms of profundity, longevity, integrity, and structure. So now let's see what we got here. I think you're going to see, you can just fall right into the aroma of this wine. Okay, so now you have this rich, oily mouthfeel. It tastes like it's got pretty good acidity, but it doesn't. It's actually pretty low acidity, a little less than 0.6 grams, and the pH is around 3.6. So that's not what you're tasting. What you're tasting is, it's like acidity, but it's this tingle in the finish. The wine is very much alive, and it's oily and smooth. Has some things in common with a 30-year-old Mosel Riesling from a good producer. So there you go. Oh man, where are my oysters? So that's the first one. I'm very proud of that, and I think it kind of, if I had to pick one wine that says what I'm all about, that would be it. And Roger Dial was writing about this wine in Appalachian America, and he called me a master forger, which at first I didn't really, I didn't really like. But when I understood what he was talking about, then I thought, okay, yeah, it's a pretty convincing Chablis knockoff. Then the second wine here, and this is another part of my search for minerality. This is a Santa Cruz Mountain Grenache. It's from the Bates Ranch, which is right down that hill from Ridge. And Bates Ranch is very famous for their Cabernet Sauvignon, probably the second best one in that region. A little more sheltered, a little warmer than Ridge, and it's run by, this is Prudy Fox, who's the viticultural consultant there. She's just a darling and brilliant. She's the one that stewards all of these little tiny vineyards that are owned by the .com billionaires and jeans. That they want to have a little backyard acre of something, and she'll take care of it. And so she's the one that put me together with this Grenache that's kind of in a hidden corner of the Bates Ranch. And we actually make 3 wines out of it. We make a sparkling Grenache that's wonderful, and we make a rosé in a Provençal style, very dry, very minerally. Takes a little while to age, as some of you may know. Anyway, this is the red. And all of these really minerally wines just don't taste very good when they're young. They need some age. And I honestly had my doubts about this wine when we first made it because it was so tight, like a zip file. But then by 2017, I liked it so much that we poured it as part of our wedding ceremony in August, and we even wrote a song about it called The Blessing Cup. All right, so what are we looking for here? Of course, what I'm trying to reproduce is it is a Rhone wine, and Rhones have a certain element to them called garrigue. That's kind of the droughty herbs that live around there, and so that's an important part of it. Many Grenaches, a lot of Spanish Grenaches, are just kind of strawberry lollipop, and I wanted more than that. So let's do it in this glass. As you can see, it's not a terribly dark wine, but not to worry. So of course, Grenache does have strawberry, and there's certainly strawberry here. The vineyard characteristic is kind of like ripe honeydew melon, and we have that here too. But the other thing we have is this earthy thing, kind of like garrigue, and we really didn't know where it came from until one of my harvest partners went out. We went out and toured the vineyard, and he looked across the road was this whole meadow full of these white flowers, and he rubbed his hand on the stem of these flowers, and there was that smell. It's kind of like carob, or almost cocoa earthiness to it, very similar to the earthy characters that you get in the Rhone. So it turns out that that's a flower called tarweed, and it has creosote on the stem, and that's where that comes from. It's something that we call terroir, and you only get terroir when you have small vineyards that are surrounded by other plants. It doesn't really happen so much in the Napa Valley because it's all grapes. The only terroir they get is once in a while a little eucalyptus from the windbreaks, and once in a while diesel exhaust from all the tourists. Anyway, so nobody doesn't like this one. It's not a huge wine. It's kind of medium body. It has more tannin than you would expect from the color, but still very graceful. So let's see what we got here. Well, round red fruit up front, that earthiness as you swallow it, and then all of this palate energy again from Santa Cruz Mountains is kind of noted for the minerality of its soils, which are principally limestone and greenstone. And I would recommend this wine with duck or veal, some lighter meats. It loves morels and mushroom sauces and that sort of thing. Even a mushroom torta would be great, and any sort of cheese, particularly the gooey ones like Epoisse and ripe Italian Fontina. Dynamite. All right, now I really did my training in Bordeaux and a little bit south of Bordeaux in Médion. That's where I learned how to do micro-oxygenation from Patrick Ducorno, who's my idol. And by the way, all about my techniques and the things I learned from him is in this book, Postmodern Winemaking. It has some technical elements to it, so you might not understand every word, but I think it will give you a wonderful window on what we really do as winemakers. Because most winemakers they're afraid of the natural wine movement. They don't want to say that they do anything, and I think that's just terrible. So anyway, this is Cabernet Sauvignon from Diamond Ridge Vineyards, and I've sold you a lot of Diamond Ridge Vineyards over the years, in the Two Jakes of Diamonds and also WineSmith wines. This is a 2013 Clone 15, and it was just recently bottled, so you can see there's hardly any penetration to that cork. We bottled it about a year ago, and I got it on here. It's 60 months in old oak. Now, I don't own any barrels that are less than 20 years old, so my wines are never oaky, but they do benefit from a long time in barrels. So first thing we did, we don't pick this stuff over rye, and we brought it in. Again, I like to ferment with untoasted allié chips because it brings out the color and gives the wine some structure and antioxidative characteristic without really imparting any flavor at all. So that's one of my tricks. And then I'll come in when the wine is just done fermenting with micro-oxygenation to build the structure and get the chain length of the tannins very short, so that you end up with a very refined tannin. And the way to do that is to capture the color molecules, the anthocyanins, before precipitated or attacked by yeast. So you just come right in and get that done, and you end up with a wine that has a lot of structural integrity and also aged for a long time. This is really basically what the Aztecs taught the Spaniards, and Spaniards taught the Belgians how to turn cocoa powder into chocolate. And cocoa powder is very nasty. A good chocolate, some people kill their grandmother for a good chocolate. So that's the difference, and that's really the same technology here, using oxygen. That chocolate waterfall in Willy Wonka. Well, they really have those. So anyway, this is kind of our version of that, and it's kind of like making a tannin souffle. And then we'll fold the yeast back in, just like you fold the yolks back in, to coat the tannins in the same way we were doing with the Foshably. All right, so here we go. Lake County is about a half a mile up, very thin air. There's really no tourists up there. There's not much traffic, so it's very clean. Also, a lot of UV, which shines on the fruit, and also in combination with this volcanic soil that doesn't give a lot of water, the canopy is very open, and so the fruit sees a lot of sunshine. That develops a lot of fruit and tannin and color. But it's also, and this is really special, Diamond Ridge is right next to the lake. So there's a cooling lake effect at about 3 o'clock every afternoon. It goes down to about 60. And that means that unlike most high altitude vineyards, it retains lots of fruit. So the Clone 15 here is black cherry. And boy, there's a lot of black cherry in this wine. And none of the pyrazines, the vegetal, bell pepper kind of aromas. They're just dispelled by that UV. Just a very light touch of oak spice. And now you're going to see it comes in very refined, very smooth, but it still has a little bit of grip. And what that means is, although this thing has developed wonderful tertiary bouquet aromas, it's still got the stones to last for, I would say, in a good cellar, another decade. What I'm trying to do here is to imitate Pauillac, a good solid Médoc. And what I really like about this, and the reason you might want to age it some more, is it's just starting to develop that tobacco tertiary character that should be coming up over the next 5 years or so. So I'd buy some for now and some for later, and I hope you can still find a steak in the time of Corona. Thanks for listening.